Yeah, yeah. Master
Hi everyone, and welcome to this seminar. So I'm going to be talking through different pricing strategies that you can use to price your product or services. So a little introduction about me. So my name is Abimbola. I'm a mother of two, so I have two toddlers, and also I'm the founder of the Quirky Oven, BIDHAAR Consulting, and Fairy Milk Mother as well. My professional background is in merchandising, so I've worked for Loaf, New Look, the Fitco, and the perfume shop. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about my company. So the Quirky Oven is a food business. So I make my own puff mix, and then also I do catering on the side as well. And for Fairy Milk Mother is a breastfeeding clothing line and accessories as well. That is actually going to be launching in September. So what we do provide is everything that is related to breastfeeding. So anything that you need in regards to breastfeeding. So clothing, accessories, breast pads, all of that will be available on the website. The agenda for today, we're going to look into what pricing is and also the different pricing strategies that you can actually adopt to price your product or your services. We're going to do some real life calculation as well. And then also I'm going to give my recommendation on how I actually price my own product as well. So let me make it full screen. So what is pricing? So pricing is actually one of the most important aspects of your business. Pricing actually has the biggest impact on your business. I think a lot of people tend to think in order for them to be successful, they need to actually acquire as many customers as possible. But that's actually wrong because you don't actually measure the growth of a company by how many customers you have, but rather by the amount of revenue and profit that you can actually generate. So it's actually important to get your pricing right because that would actually determine whether your business actually grows or not. So if your price is too high, you might be missing out on sales. And if your pricing is too low, you're going to be missing out on revenue. And if you actually charge the wrong price for your product, it might be really hard for your business to recover from that kind of mistake, but you don't have to worry. Pricing is not actually as difficult as it seems. I'm going to talk through all the different strategies that you can actually adopt and then how to use them as well to actually price your product or your services. So there's different type of pricing strategies that you can adopt, but before you actually decide on one, you have to make sure you have an in-depth understanding of your own product as well. So you need to make sure you know what your product attributes are, like what makes your product unique and why should people actually buy your own product as well. Your competition as well. You need to know what your competitors are charging for their product, the characteristics of their product as well, and how your product actually differentiate from there, like what's your own unique selling point, and also your customers as well. You need to know who your customers are. So you need to have a customer profile on the different type of people that you want to market your product to. So you need something such as their age, their income, how much do they spend typically a month on the type of product that you're offering. And also you need to know what the relationship is between price and quality. So for example, let's use Primark as an example. You wouldn't really expect Primark to be selling any item for 200 pounds because they're a discount brand. And then the same thing for Burberry. Like if you're walking into Burberry and you see a price for £2, you wouldn't really want to buy it because they're like an high-end brand. So £2 doesn't really fit along their brand image. And also, it's not a one-size-fit approach. So all the different pricing strategies that I'm going to be giving you, you have to make sure you know your business because some pricing strategies might not be applicable to your industry depending on what you do. And also, there's other factors that you might need to take into consideration as well before you decide on how you're going to set your price. Regardless of what strategies you decide to use, the main goal is to maximize your profit and your revenue as well. So other factors that you might need to consider before setting a price is your revenue goal, like how much do you want to make in a month, a week, or in a year? And also your audience, who your customers are, your product attribute, your marketing objective as well. And also as well, is there a demand for the product or services that you're offering? The price your competition are offering, the trends as well, and then economy, market, and positioning. I'm going to talk a little bit more about demand because regardless of what you do, demand is going to apply. Regardless of what strategies you decide to adopt, demand is going to apply because without demand, there's no point of you actually producing or offering any services. And also as well, you need to know whether your product is actually sensitive to price. So if, and for example, petrol, regardless of whether there's an increase in price, the demand for petrol would not really fall. But let's say like a particular brand of water, they were to increase their price, the demand for that product will fall because people will literally just switch to other product that is available and that is less cheaper. So it's really important to know whether the product or your services that you're offering is actually sensitive to price as well. That would actually help you in deciding what the best strategy is for you to use to price your product or your services. So there are 5 factors of demand, and the most important one is price of the product or services. Again, the price your competitors are charging, the income of the consumers, consumer taste and preference, and then future uncertainty. So the last one is actually very interesting because at the moment we're still in a pandemic. And then I remember, especially in UK at the beginning of the lockdown, because a lot of people don't actually know what was going to happen. People started stocking up on toilet rolls. So the demand for toilet rolls actually went up. That some places they had to put up their price in order for them to keep up with the demand. So by putting up their price, they're actually reducing the amount of people that are willing to pay the ridiculous amount of money that they're charging for the toilet roll. Face mask and hand sanitizer as well. The demand for that product actually went up as well. And then a lot of retailers actually increased their price because obviously there's demand for it and people will pay that price regardless because they actually need the product. So what is pricing strategy? So a pricing strategy is the method or model of pricing employed by businesses to establish the best price for their product or services that will maximize revenue and profit while taking into account demand and consumers as well. So different types of pricing strategies. There's actually quite a few that you can use, but today I'm only going to be talking about the ones that is actually related to product or services. So number one is competition-based pricing. So with this type of strategy, what you do is you look at what your competitors are charging for their product, and then you set your price based on how much they're charging. So let's say your competitor is New Look, and let's say they're charging £20 for a similar top that you've got in your range as well. You can actually decide to sell your product for like maybe £18 or £22 based on how much they're charging for their product. The only problem with this is like you don't actually take into account what your cost is. You don't take into account how much your customers are willing to pay. You just go off based on what your competitors are charging for their price. The other one is cost plus pricing. This one, you literally look at your cost, like how much is it costing you to produce that product. You can take other costs into consideration as well. So like your running cost, your admin cost, and then based on that, you decide how much you're going to sell the product for. So let's say it costs you £15 to make a pen. You can decide to sell it for £45, which is a two markup on your cost price. But you don't look at anything else as well. So this one, you don't take into account your competitions, your customer. You set your price based on how much it actually costs you to make the product. Another one is dynamic pricing. So this one is a flexible pricing approach. So depending on the demand, you can either increase or decrease your price. So if there's high demand for your product, you can put the product price up. And if there's low demand for the product, you can reduce the price to attract more customers. The other one is called high and low pricing. So this one is when you set the product at a very high price, but then you lower the price when the product drops off and people are not really interested in the product anymore. So this could be applicable to, let's say you've got like a spring summer collection and you're looking to bring in your autumn winter collection, but you've not sold out of your spring summer collection. So you need to create space so you can go on sales because you need to clear out of that product in order for you to bring in your autumn winter product. So you can adopt that kind of pricing as well, like if you want to do sales and stuff. So you sell the product for a really high price at the beginning, and then when the season start coming to an end, you start reducing your price to clear out of the stock so you can bring in new stock. Another one is skimming pricing. So skimming pricing is where you charge the highest possible price for a product when the product is new. So this is very applicable, like if your industry is technology, so like phones. So whenever there's a new model of a phone, it's very expensive, but then as the year goes on, they tend to reduce the price because they've introduced newer model to the market. Another one is premium pricing. So you price your product really high to present the image that your product is high value, luxury, or premium. So this would be applicable if you're trying to run a luxury brand or a premium brand. So regardless of what your cost price is, you will charge a really high price for your product so you can look luxury or high value. Penetration pricing is when you enter the market with an extremely low price. So you're going to be taking a cut on your margin on purpose, so you can actually draw away customers from your competition. And another one is hourly based pricing. So this is more applicable if you run a service business. So if you have a project, you can charge them per hour for that product. So if it's going to take you like let's say 10 hours to complete the project, you charge them per hour based on your forecast of how long it's going to take you to complete the project. So another one is prestige pricing. So this one actually focuses on the perceived value of a product rather than the actual value of a product or the production cost. So a lot of luxury brands actually adopt this price because they've already created a brand image and they know how people actually perceive their brand. So they can actually charge more for their product or their services because of the brand image that they've already built for the product. And also as well, they feel like people are going to think the product is worth more than is actually worth. So they can actually get away with charging so much money for the product. Another one is value-based pricing. So with value-based pricing, you charge your price based on what you think your customers are willing to pay. So you can conduct a market research and see how much your customers are willing to pay for your product, and then you set your price based on your research. Another one is loss leader pricing. So that one, you actually put your price really, really low in hope that people would actually buy something else that is of high value in your store. So let's say it costs you £5 to make an earring. You can sell it for £7. Your margin is really, really bad, but you have other products in your store that the margin is really, really high and it's going to offset the really bad margin that you've got on the earring. So the point of that is you attract people to your store by giving them like an offer with the hopes that they're going to buy something else in your store that has a high value. So you're not really missing out much on your margin. Another one is project-based pricing. Again, this one is applicable to if you run a service business. So instead of doing hourly pricing, you're just going to give them like a flat fee for the project instead of exchanging your time for money. So not every pricing strategy is going to be applicable to every business. So depending on the industry that you are, some pricing strategy might work for you, some might not. So again, you really need to understand your product and your customers before you actually decide on the strategy, and also as well, what are you trying to achieve bottom line as well. So for a product pricing strategy, you should consider your cost and then set a price that would actually maximize profit, support research and development, and then also you'll be able to stand up against your competitors. So for this, I would recommend that you use cost plus pricing, competitive pricing, prestige pricing, value-based pricing, and premium pricing. And the good thing with this is like you don't have to pick one. You can do a combination of different type of pricing. So for example, I tend to do cost plus, competitive pricing, and then value-based pricing to actually decide how much I want to charge for my product. And if you're a service business, this can actually be a little bit more difficult to set a price for because one, you don't really have like a direct manufacturing cost. Whatever you're charging is based on how much you believe you're worth and how much you want to pay yourself per hour for whatever project that you're taking on. So for this, I would recommend you can use hourly pricing, although a lot of people don't like to pay per hour. They would rather pay for a whole project rather than paying per hour. And then also as well, value-based pricing. So it's setting your price based on what you think your customers are gonna want to pay. So there are 4 steps that you need to take before you actually price your product. So one, you need to understand where your brand is actually positioned in the market. So are you a discount brand? Are you a contemporary brand, premium or luxury brand? And what you need to do is you need to do a research on how much your competitors are charging. So you need to see what their starting price is and what their exit price is. So a discount brand could be they have a product that is as low as 50p, and their most expensive product could be £50. Whereas a contemporary brand, their price could start from like £20, and the most expensive one can be £100. And then premium brand can be between £100 and £500. And a luxury brand is usually from, I don't know, 100 to unlimited. So you need to figure out where your brand fits in within all of this in order for you to know what the amount of price that you should be charging for your product. So after you figure out what your brand positioning is, you need to calculate your cost of production and then other running costs as well. So with other running costs, I mean like admin cost, marketing cost. You should take that into consideration as well, because a lot of people, especially in the industry as well, they tend to calculate their cost of production and they don't take into account other expenses as well. But if you're a startup, it's very important that you take into account all your other running costs to make sure you're actually making enough profit to keep the business growing. And also, if you want to sell through wholesalers, you will need to set your wholesale price. And then from there, you can decide what your retail price is. But if you're going to be selling direct to consumers, you don't need to worry about your wholesale price. So when you want to set your wholesale price, a good place to start is for you to multiply your cost by 2. At least this would ensure that you're having a profit margin of 50%. But I always say to aim for 30 to 50% wholesale margin. So the lowest you get is 30% and the maximum you get is 50%. And if you're selling direct to consumer, I always say, regardless of whether you're a discount brand, aim for a minimum of 70%. But if you're taking into account other costs and expenses as well, you can afford to go down to 60% margin. So profit margin is the gross profit you earn when an item is sold. So that's how much profit or revenue that you're generating when you actually sell an item. So an example, let's say you sell you're a bag company and you sell bags, and it costs you £15 to produce each bag, and then all that running cost is around £5 per bag, and you decide to sell them for £40 each. So let's assume that £40 is your wholesale price. Your margin per bag, how much you're going to be earning per bag, is going to be £20 or 50%. So this is the calculation. In order for you to calculate your margin, just take whatever price you think you want to charge for the product minus the cost and divide it by price again. You're going to get your margin percentage. So in this case, so our bag, we want to sell it for £40 wholesale minus £20 cost divided by 40. That gives us an 0.5% margin. So this is an easy way for you to calculate your price. But I actually don't use this because I find this a bit, too much faffing about. So I've got a template that I tend to use to calculate my price, and I'm going to go through it with you, and then we're going to explore different scenarios as well, because I think that's going to make it a lot easier rather than me just talking about it. I can actually give you real life examples. So we're going to do one for if you're manufacturing your product with a manufacturer. So let's say we're going to use bag as an example. So let's say I'm bringing in 10 bags. So I'm just going to do bag 1 and then drag it down. 10 bags, yeah. And I'm bringing in, let's say, 50 units of each. And each bag is going to cost me, let's assume, £10 to bring it in. And then also shipping costs as well. Let's say per each bag is going to, I'm going to be spending around £100 on shipping as well to get the bags to me. So in here, I'm assuming that I'm bringing the bag in from, let's say, China. If you're not bringing your bag in from China, and let's say you're producing it in the UK, you don't have to add so 5% is your import duty, and the 20% is the VAT that you have to pay when you actually bring in product from outside of the UK. So I've actually put that in, and depending on your industry as well, I think the rate is different, but you can always check online to see what the rates are, so you can use that to actually calculate what your cost is. So let's say I actually did sampling for each bag as well, and the sampling actually cost me £70. So I'm just going to put £70 there and drag it down. And also the packaging that I'm going to be using to actually send the bags out as well. Let's say it cost me £25 per packaging. I'm going to put that there and drag it down. And marketing as well. So let's say I plan to do some, let's say, influencer marketing or Facebook ads for each bag as well. So let's say my budget for each bag is £200 in marketing per month, or for the whole period. Sorry, marketing is one. For the whole period, I'm going to put £200 there. So which means I'm going to be spending like £200 in marketing for 3 months. Put that there. Other admin costs, so maybe like my subscription, printing, and all of that is going to be around, let's say, £150. around £50 per month. So £150 for 3 months. I'm gonna drag it down. Other, like if there's any other expenses as well, maybe you pay rent as well. What you can do is you can divide your rent for that 3 months with the amount of product that you plan to sell or produce for the 3-month period, and then you can put that figures in this space as well. So my cost is actually coming up to £24 for each bags produced. So let's say I want to aim for a profit margin of 60%. I can start playing around with pricing in here. So let's say £70. So that gives me a 66% margin. But I always take into account my VAT. You don't have to pay VAT until you hit the threshold, but I think it's very important that you take into account, you work it into your price anyways, because you never know when you're actually going to hit the VAT threshold. So it's important for you to actually work that into your price already. So when you actually hit the threshold, you don't have to faff about. You already know what you've already worked your VAT into your price. So I'm gonna try and get that to 60% as well. So I'm gonna increase the price to, let's say, $72.99. Yeah, so that gives me a 61% margin. And this is taking into consideration that I'm just gonna assume I'm a premium brand, so I can actually afford to charge £72 for my product. But if I'm a discount brand, I would have to go back and figure out a way to reduce my cost, because then I don't want my products to be more than £50 in order for me to be like a discount price, a discount brand. So $72.99 is not too bad if I'm a premium brand, but then I can still afford to charge more for my product as well, depending on the quality of the product. So if the product is a really high quality product, you can afford to charge more. But if the product quality is like medium, you don't want to charge too much, because what you're going to end up with is a lot of customer complaint, and you don't really want that, because that's going to be really bad for business. So let's say I want to charge $89.99 for the bag. So that's going to be giving me a 68% margin after VAT and a 73% margin before VAT. And let's say I want to sell through wholesalers as well. I can come in here. Let's say I want to give my wholesaler like a 30% margin. So my cost price is £24. So let's start with 35 and see what that is gonna. So it's giving like a 31% margin, which is not too bad as well. Or you can go up to £40 and you get a 40% margin from. So if you sell this to wholesaler, you're going to be getting £15.98 in profit, which is not too bad as well, because wholesalers are going to be buying a lot of quantity from you compared to if you're trying to sell it directly to consumers yourself. So that's not too bad. And also as well, because with this, you're planning out your whole range, so you can actually afford to actually take, so you look at your bottom line margin at the bottom here. Oh, the calculation is wrong on some of that. So 1 second, sorry. Just try to fix that. Sorry, 1 second. I just realized the formula is a bit wrong on that one. No, actually, it's right. Never mind. Sorry. So I'm just gonna put $89.99 on all the prices. Drag it down. So that's actually giving me a bottom line margin of 73%. So for that whole collection, I'm gonna be getting 73% margin if I was to sell all that product at full price. But let's say I want to try penetration pricing, which is I'm going to be offering one of my products at a really low price in order for me to actually attract customers. So let's say bag 9, instead of $89.99, I want to sell it for $59.99. So that's going to be giving me a 60% margin. But my bottom line is still 72% because I have other products within that range that the margin is really high for. So I can really afford to actually go down and sell that for a lower margin because I'm going to be making my profit from other bags as well. So let's try $49.99 and see what that is. So that's 52% margin, but still my overall margin is still within 60 to 70% margin, which is really, really good. So if you want to try penetration strategy, you can reduce one of your products to attract customers to your brand. and you won't be missing out on margin as well, because you've got other products that are really high margin, so that actually offsets your bottom line. You're still going to be getting the 66 to 70% margin on your product. But with that product, let's say back 7, you might not be able to offer it to wholesalers, because you're not going to be making anything from it if you were to offer it for wholesaler. So let's say it's £24 and you want to sell it for, I don't know, £30 on wholesale. You're only going to be making around 20% margin. And then after VAT, you've only got 4%, which is not really a lot. So you're going to be making £9, £5.98 on each product that you sell wholesale. But it depends as well. Let's say someone was to order 200 of that, wholesaler wants to buy 200 of it. You can still sell it to them for £5.98, but it's not really worth it when you've got other high margin product that you can offer instead. So you can just use that as your penetration product to attract customer to your brand. So that's that on that one. I'm gonna see if anyone has any question before I move on to if you're actually hand making your product and how to actually set price for that one as well. So I'm gonna come back to the screen and see if anyone has any question. Any question? No? No question? Okay, I'm gonna move on to handmade product. So I've got a template as well that you can use for your handmade product. So let's say, again, we're going to be using bags as an example. So I'm hand producing my bags myself. So I'm just going to say bags. And I want to make 50 for that collection. Let's say a beaded bag. So I'm going to be making 50 of a beaded bag. So my material cost, let's say beads, is going to cost me, I don't know, maybe I need like, I don't know, 1,000 beads. And it's gonna cost me £100 to buy those beads, and then the shipping cost is £3.99. And also trimmings. Maybe I'm gonna be needing some trimmings as well to make the bags. 50. That's gonna cost me. I'm just assuming the price. I don't know what the price are, but this is just an example for you to see. And I think they use cardboard as well when you're making a bag. So I'm gonna put cardboard in there. And let's say I'm buying 100 cardboard and it's costing me £25. Shipping is free for that one. 0 glue. You might be needing glue as well. Let's say I'm buying 500 ml of glue, and that's around £10. And shipping is £1.99 for that one. Packaging that I'm going to be using to send the bags out. Say I'm going to be buying 50 packaging, and that costs me, let's say, £50 as well. And shipping is free for that one as well. Other running costs could be my admin expenses, my marketing. So let's say admin. Quantity, it's not relevant for marketing and admin. So admin, let's say it's gonna cost me, I don't know, £200 for admin, and marketing, £500. So my cost of production per one is already coming up to £18.90. And also you can decide how many hours it's gonna take you to make all those 50 bags. So let's say it's gonna take me 48 hours to make the 50 bags. In here, you need to decide how much you want to pay yourself per hour. So let's say I want to pay myself £15 per hour for each bag that I make. So the total cost is already coming up to, you can see right there, £33.30, based on how many hours it's going to cost me to make the 50 bags and how much I want to pay myself per hour for the bags. So in here, I'm going to try and set my retail price. So the cost is £33.30. And I want to achieve at least a 60% margin. So let's say £99. I can sell the bag for £99. And because it's handmade as well, and a lot of people actually value handmade product, they are always more willing to pay more for product that is actually handmade. So you can actually afford to actually charge more for your product since it's actually handmade. So let's say I want to sell the bag for £99, which means I'm going to be getting at least a 66% margin. And then also after VAT as well, I still have a 60% margin, and the profit I'm going to be making from selling each bag is £65.70. Let's say I want to go down the wholesale route as well. I can say I want to sell it for, let's say, £66 wholesale, which means I'm still going to be getting 50% margin. And also after VAT, I still have 39% margin. And I'm going to be making £32.70 per each bag that I sell. And also as well, wholesalers as well, dependent. So let's say they're buying a large quantity, they might want you to reduce your price as well, which you can actually afford to do because they're buying more. So let's say they want to buy, I don't know, 100 bags from you, and they want you to sell it to them at £50. So your margin is still not bad. You're still making £16.70 per bag. But then the thing is, you're selling more than you would if you're selling it yourself. So that's it. I hope that actually really makes sense, and that would actually help you to actually set your price. Does anyone have any other question as well? Any question? Did you learn anything? Was that really helpful? Did that clarify things a little bit more? Does it make it easier for you to set your product? It's not as it's not as scary as it is anymore. You can talk, you can unmute yourself and talk.
That was really helpful. Will you be sharing the template you were showing us by any chance?
Yes, but I will be selling the template if you want the template, because I'm going to do a video recording as well to show you how to use the template. So I think Chioma is going to be sending out more information after the session on how you can actually get your hands on the template.
It was really, really helpful, and it was a good breakdown.
Okay, thank you so much. I was really nervous to do it, but it wasn't too bad.
We couldn't tell. Well, I couldn't tell anyway.
It's my first time, so thank you.
Great. There were so many things I hadn't thought about, like adding glue and stuff like that.
Yeah, because you really have to think about it. And that's why I use the template myself, because it's very easy for you to forget certain costs, and then at the end of the month you're wondering, where did all my profit go? What did I spend my money on? But when you actually write everything down and you actually plan your whole range in advance, you can go back and actually manipulate your price depending on demand, and also if there's an increase in manufacturing cost or product that you're using as well, you can easily go back and edit and just play around with it until you actually get the perfect price that you want for your product. Yeah.
I think it's quite important to learn about things like wholesale and VAT and reaching that threshold, because I think when you're starting small, sometimes you don't necessarily consider all the impacts of scaling up. So that was quite useful as well.
Yeah, so it's really nice to have that. Yeah, so because I always say, always be prepared, because you never know. So I know a lot of people don't even think about their VAT, but I always make sure I include my VAT, because you never know when you're actually going to hit the VAT threshold, and you would have to start paying VAT. So if your price was really low, you will realize you would have to use all your profit to pay for the VAT. But if you've already planned your VAT in advance and you hit the threshold, you're going to have the money to actually pay for the VAT when you actually hit the threshold.
Yeah. I wouldn't have actually honestly thought about it at all. No.
Some people don't think about their other costs as well. I always have my other cost in as well. People just tend to do the manufacturing cost and then they decide their price based on that. But if you're just starting out, you can't afford not to add your expenses and all of that into your pricing. Big brands, they can, set their price based on their manufacturing cost, because they sell a lot of units anyway, so they can always make their money back. But if you're a small brand, you need to make sure like all your cost goes into your price to make sure you're getting as much profit and revenue as possible.
I think it's really useful to have things like this, because sometimes you don't even know what you don't know, so you can't even account for the things you're not even aware that you should be accounting for.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Any more questions? No? Everyone is happy? All right. Oh, that actually didn't take too long, actually.
All right. So thank you everyone for coming online to join us at the workshop. We're grateful to have everyone here. So we will be sending out the record of the conversation by Monday to everyone.
And the
Yeah, and then
template
we'll
and the
discuss with
presentation as well.
yeah, we'll discuss with Abby on the template as well, and then get back to everyone on Monday. And then I also wanted to say this because part of what necessitated this workshop was the brands that BIDHAAR has been working with, that we noted like 90% of the time, most of the brands had difficulty getting their pricing right, understanding what wholesale pricing was and all of that. And then we thought that we should actually do this to actually get people to be able to put their pricing together, because pricing is a huge part of your business. You might be a small business, but you need to start thinking of your business as a big business, because that's how you're actually going to earn the income to be able to hire bigger influencers and be able to increase your marketing budget and be able to improve on the quality of your products and be able to reach out to more stores, to more people and all of that in your business. So it's a very important part of your business, which you need to be able to put together before you actually start reaching out to people to stock you or to buy your products wholesale. And most of the times when people actually meet with other people, or rather a buyer actually meets with your brand and says, oh, we want to stock you or we want to purchase your products, and they see you're not ready with your pricing, they usually tend not to take your brand seriously, which is very bad for your brand equity. So it's part of the reason why we set this. And then another thing we've also noticed along the line is that because a lot of people tend to not have like offices and the other staff that work with them, they tend to forget that that is part of their costs, which is totally wrong. Even if you work from your home, you need to be able to tell yourself, what is your rent in the house?
Oh, she's frozen.
How much is space do I use in my house for my work, be it for storage, be it for your manufacturing or production? What is the cost of that square space in your house? That's your rent. So add it in there, because if you do not actually understand that this is a cost, you wouldn't be able to move from working in your house to an office. So all these things are things you need to calculate and ensure that is there. And a lot of the times we find out that there are people who are actually often scared of increasing their pricing because they feel, oh, people are not going to buy it. But the truth of the matter is, your business wouldn't be a business if your business isn't making profit. So we need to actually have all of these in mind when we're doing our pricing, in order for us to be able to make money, and in order for our business to be able to grow bigger and better and expand and all of that. So yeah, for me, this is my two.
And always have a pricing deck as well. Your also deck, like create one in advance. So whenever someone actually do ask for it, you already have one to give to them immediately. So you don't have to go off like, oh, I need to calculate that. You already have it. So you can tell them like, okay, for 10 products, this is my wholesale price. For 100 product, this is my wholesale price. For 200 product, this is my wholesale price.
And does that mean that's your wholesale price for all the 10 products?
Sorry, can you say that again?
And then is it the wholesale price each product, or for 10 products that are the same?
For each product.
Okay.
But then always set a minimum quantity as well, if possible. So let's say your minimum is 5, and then you have the highest wholesale price for your minimum of 5. And then if someone is buying 100, the price would go down per unit depending on how much quantity they're buying from you.
And then the wholesale price is how much they buy it from you?
Yeah, from you, yes. How much you give it to them, yeah. But then also some of them might want to come back and negotiate with you as well, because they would go off and actually do their calculations as well to see whether they're going to be making, because you're going to give them the recommended retail price, which they can decide to sell it at your recommended retail price, or they can decide to go lower, because then they know their customers as well. They would know how much their customer would be willing to pay for your product as well. So you might find that like some wholesaler might be selling your product more than your recommended retail price, and you will find that some are selling it below your recommended retail price, but you don't actually have any control over that. The only thing you have control over is how much you sell it to them for.
And then do you have to sell at the same price as them when you sell your product online? Or
No, you don't have to have the same. No, but you have to make sure you're selling it at your recommended retail price on your website.
I'm sorry, I got cut off, everyone.
No, it's okay.
no, it's really
Unless you're having a sale, then obviously the price can go down.
So are there any other questions?
I don't think so. I think that's it.
All right then. So thank you everyone for coming on again.
Thank you.
Zagalat.